Hey there, guys. Welcome to my channel. I am Cerise Fairfax. This is story time, and I appreciate you stopping by and considering my video to watch. If you watch till the very end and you enjoy it, please make sure you hit a like button there for me, just so I know that you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed it that much, share it with your friends and family. Let's get talking about this story, because we definitely cannot allow this type of thing to happen. Without any further ado, let's get into today's story time. Well, I'm a dude, and I don't mind a lady paying for her own meal when it comes to Dutch. But, there are times where if she's my lady and I make more money than her, I'm going to pay for most of the meals. I was just raised that way. But I do love it when a woman does pay for me just for no reason at all. It feels good. It's like a guilty pleasure. It's not like I really need her to. And it's not like I really needed this woman to. I was dating this woman for about 6 months. A little wacky, but I didn't realize it. I like a little crazy every now and again, crazy for me. I like a woman that's a little jealous, always checking up on me, where I'm at. I love that type of stuff. But when she does wacky things outside of our relationship, that's what scares me. And this is something that I caught her doing. So I treated her all the time. Even though we were only together for 6 months, I do want to give the backdrop. She first came in and she was my roommate. So I bought a new home and I decided I was going to rent out part of the home. And she came, and I was going to live down the basement and rent the top floor out, and like the two top floors out, to a family. But when she came, she saw the rent sign out front and she knocked on my door, and she said she was looking for a small apartment. And I asked her for how long, and she said roughly a year. So I thought to myself, you know what? Let me rent out the basement to her. I can rent out the top floor, and then the main floor, I can rent it out to a family or to a couple or a single person. Really didn't make a difference because each area did have its own entry. Okay? So she moves in the basement, and it was about 2 weeks after that her and I were sleeping together. It was about 2 weeks after that we were going solid. I wasn't really into a lot of different women. I was working all the time, so this was like a kind of like a pop-up shop relationship. It was great. I would get home, she would be cooking, and it was just perfect. Now, it got to a point, the third month, where she started to suggest to me that we should move in together. Now, I was spending a lot of time down in the basement with her, and upstairs it was just going to waste. Like, nobody was renting it out. And so I said to her, okay, well, let's move in together. You pay for half the rent and I'll pay for half the rent. And she's like, well, that doesn't make sense. If we're living together and it's your house and you have to pay the mortgage anyway, why wouldn't you pay the mortgage if you love me? And she talked me into it, and I thought, well, that makes perfect sense. She works from home. She works on commission. She doesn't make nearly half as much money as I do. And I thought, I love being with her. Why not take the load off her back? And she doesn't have to pay anything. I told her, okay, you know what? You just pay the food. And then we started to get some tenants upstairs. Everything was grooving. We're about 4 months in now. And she says to me that she wants to start doing date night. She wants to start writing an article on different foods at gourmet restaurants. And I thought, okay, that sounds okay. She is a freelance writer anyway. So we started to go to different restaurants. She would book the reservations. Now, these are high-class restaurants. She would book the reservations, and we would go and we would eat. And the deal was she was going to pay for the meals. Now, these meals were quite expensive. And some of the food I didn't even try in my life before. And it was really delicious food, gourmet restaurant after gourmet restaurant. And this was her thing. She would say to me, okay, baby, I'm going to pay. You go get the car ready. And I'd be like, okay. So I go to the washroom, wash up, go get the car ready. And I would sit outside the restaurant and she would come out. Now, I never thought for the life of me she was up to something. She was dining and dashing with me. That's what she was doing, and I had no clue. And then I started to notice, we went to this one restaurant, and she started to complain about everything that came out. We ordered appetizers, and I loved them. Then we ordered something else, like, some type of tartare. I loved it. And then we ordered something else, and she just kept picking and picking and picking. She would let me have my share because, we'd get like, let's say we ordered shrimp. We'd get like 5 shrimp. I'd have 2, and then, I'd offer her the last 3. She'd have 1, and she'd be like, oh no, this is garbage, and she sent it back. This one restaurant. And I said to her, what's going on? Why are you sending back all the food? She's like, I need to start getting serious about my reviews. And I said, all right. She's like, none of this has good flavor. And trust me, I know good food. I'm a foodie. It tasted great. But I didn't push. She was paying for it. And I didn't want to mess up her articles, And it was a few months in now, about a month and a half of us going out to a dinner every single week. And I still didn't see any articles. But I didn't want to push her. So then we get out of that restaurant. She tells me, honey, go down and wait for me in the car. And I went down and I waited for her in the car, and I'm waiting, and she's not coming out. I contact her on her cell phone, and she answers, and she's like, just give me 1 minute, I'm having trouble with the management. I said, okay. So I'm waiting. 20 minutes pass, and so I go upstairs. And I didn't want to act like the big shot, but I am the boyfriend, and I want to make sure management's not giving my girlfriend a tough time. So I go inside, and they're like, there he is right there. There's a police officer. I don't know where the police officer came from, but the police, they came over to me and they said, okay, well, you know what? Apparently you and your girlfriend here have been doing this for a while, and this has got to stop. This dining and dashing. Every single restaurant you go to in this area, you have been on camera, you have been now located, and we're taking you in. I was like, what are you talking about? Like this, I was in a dream. They took us down to the station, and the bills, all of the accumulated, like all of them together, came up to $7,000. And these meals were expensive. She was ordering the best wine. She was ordering the best champagne some nights. And I couldn't figure out how she was paying for it anyway. But I didn't want to say anything. I thought maybe she was getting a deal because she was writing for them or what have you. And the police said, this is the accumulation of all of the bills. We have been doing a whole investigation on the two of you, and this is not good. And I was like, I told the police, listen, I go down in the car every single time she pays. And they're like, no, you go and get the car because you're doing the escape. You're in on it. And I'm like, there's no way I would ever do this. I showed them, opened up my cell phone, showed them how much I make a week at my job. I showed them my financials and everything right there in the office. And then they looked her up online, and they found out she was a Wacko. First, she gave her wrong name because she didn't give her right name, and she refused fingerprints, thumbprints, and everything. And so they asked me, they said, what is your girlfriend's name? Because they kept referring to her as Tracy Watson. And I'm like, this girl, who are you even talking about? You have the wrong people. Tracy Watson is not even my girlfriend, right? So I was getting up to leave, and I'm like, this is the wrong people you have. And they're like, no. And they showed me some video footage. They also showed me her doing this before, and they also showed me her arrest record. This woman was crazy. I was sleeping with the enemy. I was sleeping with the devil. Guys, I just want to tell you, and girls, listen. If you like someone a little crazy in your life, that's up to you. I don't any longer. If you like someone a little wild, a little jealous, those are red flags. Make sure you figure out those red flags first. She came straight to my apartment, and so it was a little bit of a different situation. I didn't really see the crazy right away, and when I did, I kind of understood it because, I make good money. I'm a good looking man. She didn't make good money. She was an average looking woman, but I don't go for women for their money, and I don't go for women for their looks. For me, it's usually, again, that little crazy, that little jealousy, that little different flare in their eyes, but no longer. Like, no way. This woman, she had hurt men. She tied men up. She stalked men. Like, you got to be careful when you are into a relationship and you like that woman. And it doesn't matter what it is. When your gut is telling you something is up, you better listen. Do not get caught up the way I did. The moral of the story is the police officers realized I was completely innocent, and I didn't have to pay a cent back. I feel sorry that those restaurant owners did suffer, but I did go to their restaurants, and I apologized at each and every restaurant. And I also had a meal at the restaurants. I went with friends, and of course those meals were so expensive, most of them, so we would just get appetizers and drinks, and that's what I did. Every single restaurant that she ripped off while I was there, I went back and I apologized, and I explained the situation, and I actually got a couple of clients out of that dealing. So I got my respect back. But my gosh, they were just about to put it on the news if they didn't find us. Could you imagine being on the news as the Dine Dashers? Well, I'm glad that they did find her, and I'm glad that she did do her jail time. She's still in jail because she was wanted for a different situation at the time. And that's why she moved out of her apartment and moved into my place, and apparently changed her name. In any case, what I want to tell you guys is please be very careful out there. Do not allow yourselves to get involved with a woman just because she's convenient. And ladies, you be careful too. When your man is telling you to go out and get the car or go out and do something and it seems like it becomes a routine, focus on that. He could be up to something. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to my story. Hey there, guys. I thank you so much for listening to Story Time. If this has ever happened to you, or if you've had any experiences with some wacky women or even crazy men, let me know down below. I'm sure this happens more than we realize. Alrighty, guys, take care. Have a wonderful weekend.